Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out, the podcast, the greatest podcast ever in the history of... Well, it's all right. It's okay. I like it. I'm John.
It's me, Casualty, CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the podcast and Fresh Out the Box. Hey, Jahan, what's up? It's just me and you this week, huh?
Yeah, just me and
you.
No one,
I'm butting in here.
Oh, no.
It's me, the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and I've misplaced my trophy for best podcast ever. I had it here on my desk. I swear I had it nearby.
John, I thought you said we weren't going to do it with this guy anymore. Did you? Who the hell is this guy?
Oh, man, I forgot to revoke his access.
Did you invite him, or did he just show up?
I don't know. He was here when I got here. I thought you invited him.
We make him a guest one time. One time he's a guest, and now he's just here every week.
Let's be clear. If I'm going to get booted off and you want to record the podcast without me, maybe don't record on the night that we all planned to do it at the time that we normally do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just a suggestion if you want to do it.
We did all this.
Like at 2 a.m. or something when I am more than likely asleep. You know, that's probably a good time to do it.
That's awesome because that's only 1 a.m. for me in mountain time, right? So it's not a big... I can record at 1 a.m.
I will also definitely be asleep.
All right, well, it's going to be a boring podcast. Jahan will be snoring and I'll be talking to myself.
I'd listen to it.
Me too.
Thanks, guys.
We talking about anything cool today, Drew?
You want to talk about Max, Gary? Do you know about Max?
Are you talking about Blake's kid?
No.
That's the only Max I know about.
You're talking about the 90s animated show?
Mighty Max?
The Max?
You talking about HBO Max?
No, I'm talking about where they go to eat and Saved by the Bell, the Max.
You talking about Apple computers and their products? You talking about Max?
Ooh, multiple Macs. I like it.
You going to McDonald's? Are you talking about the Big Mac right now? Is that the kind of Mac you're talking about?
But this is on the fly, and my brain just stopped, so I'm just letting Gary roll with it and seeing what else.
Are you talking about Always Sunny in Philadelphia? You talking about Mac? You talking about the fourth guy they got? You talking about the guy who sells mattresses in Houston? Are you talking about Mattress Mac right now?
Well, now you've
talking about the Mac and cheese?
Unless we're talking about multiple Macs.
Yeah, those are two different Macs. That's right.
Oh,
Mac and Mattress Mac. Those are both Macs.
We were talking about Max. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
No, by Max, I am referring to the long-awaited official merged product of Discovery Warner Brothers. Or excuse me, actually, I swapped that. It's Warner Brothers Discovery. As we know, Discovery and Warner Brothers merged a couple. I guess over a year ago at this point. After
So
AT&T
you
sold
are
off Warner
talking
Brothers.
about HBO Max.
We are talking about HBO Max, which as of May will be dropping the HBO and just becoming Max, which is, of course, a lot of people making fun of it and the fact
Yeah,
that
man.
now
If
it's
you want
just
brand
going to be
recognition, you should
Max.
change your name at least twice every 5 years. Everybody knows that.
And I mean, if you have one of the most prestigious brands in television, you might as well just drop that from your name altogether and, just call it Max.
Yeah, that would be like if Fox Live changed their name to just Live and you were supposed to know what the hell that means. You don't drop the big part of your name.
It's funny that you say that because it still catches me off guard with Disney, because ever since Disney bought Fox,
You mean
now
Plus?
21st Century Fox and Fox Searchlights are now just 20th Century Studios and Searchlight Studios, and it just boggles my mind.
Well,
when
in
I
that
see
instance, they
the
would have
same
distanced
logo,
themselves.
but without the Fox.
They're probably trying to distance themselves from Fox, if we're
I
being
love
honest.
in a few years that Disney will just drop the Disney from Disney Plus and the program will just be known as Plus. That's
Plus.
exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Apparently, I mean, I'm sure that the folks at Warner Brothers Discovery have done lots of market testings with this, and allegedly they have been told there are people that think that HBO is too highbrow and that it's too prestige-y, and they just want to watch their regular reality shows or whatever it may be. So maybe Max is more appealing to those folks that are planning to, migrate over from their Discovery Plus streamer to watch this, and HBO will be just a tab on Max. I find it very hard to believe, but
They're
apparently
asking
those
people
people
in the
exist.
Walmart parking lot, apparently.
It's all so dumb. It's all so dumb. It's been dumb,
dumb.
Since the merger. It's been dumb since they canceled their animated shows and gutted their animated division. It's dumb that they're going to change their name. Whoever they're going to for these focus groups is dumb. They're using dumb research and they're hiring dumb companies, and they need to
Hey,
go to
you've done
hell.
an HBO focus group within the past 2 years. Gary says you're dumb.
No, the guys running it are dumb.
That's
They're
right,
they're
right.
hiring the wrong dumb companies to run it. The
It is a
company's
quite
straight up like,
tumultuous-
get rid of everything you have and change your name and get rid of your brand recognition. It's just whoever they're hiring as consultants is a stupid asshole. Just a dumb person.
It's been a tumultuous history of them with names in general, because you remember HBO's app back in the day before HBO Max, they had HBO Go,
Yeah.
and then I can't even remember I think it was called HBO Now was the version where
my God.
because HBO Go was if you subscribed to HBO through cable, and then you could watch HBO Go. And then they started doing HBO Now, I believe is what it was called, that you could just subscribe just to that streaming service. Then they merged those to HBO Max, which confused lots of people.
Including
And now
me.
here
I'm
we are
very
just a
confused.
couple years later, dropping the HBO and now just becoming Max.
I remembered HBO Go, but I didn't remember the strain of other ones just like lodged
I
in
also,
the middle.
I remember to go. I forgot the rest of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's just been a weird history with the streaming service, and ironically, my favorite streaming service, HBO Max, is my go-to. It is what I spend the most of my time on, especially recently with all the shows we've been talking about: House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, The White Lotus, and now Succession, and Barry just premiered last night. And I watched that too, and those are all shows I'm watching on HBO. Most of the shows that I watch are on HBO Max. So
I have HBO through Hulu, and so Hulu's my go-to just because I can watch both. It's kind of a catch-all for me. But I got the notice today that HBO's price is increasing, blah, blah, blah. And so now I'm on the fence. Now do I cancel HBO? They've made some strange decisions, and we live in an era of, do I keep this streaming service or not? Almost every month it's time to refresh and decide if you really need that one. So, I don't know, HBO Max, a.k.a. Max. I don't know what you're doing here, but it's not looking smart from where I'm sitting.
I guess it just depends on where your interests lie. Are you interested in the Colin Farrell The Penguin series? There was a first look at that as part of this announcement, with some behind-the-scenes videos and things of them filming that show. There's the newly announced Harry Potter series, which is a 10-year project of this show. guess 10 seasons or upwards of that, where with each season being a year in the show. Because it's not like you already had a Harry Potter franchise that lasted over the course of 10 years that was highly successful and loved by fans or anything like that.
I've never seen a successful movie series, be made into a television show that covers the exact same material. I've never seen
it comes off, and I believe it is a total desperation move, because they're at a point where Harry Potter's super valuable, regardless of your feelings of J.K. Rowling. At the end of the day, Harry Potter's a super valuable IP for Warner Brothers, and it doesn't make sense to have it sitting there idly. We've seen the Hogwarts Legacy game sold like 2.5 times what they were estimating early. Like, it's just sold bonkers. So obviously there's a market for Harry Potter fans. People want this kind of content, at least in the gaming spectrum. I'm sure they do in TV and movies as well. The Fantastic Beasts series has been pretty poorly received and has fizzled out. The adult actors, Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert Grint and folks, don't want to come back to do a Cursed Child movie, which is the Broadway play that's going on right now, that Warner Brothers, you could bet that they've been trying to get something going to make a film version of that, and whether it's J.K. Rowling doesn't want that to be a movie, or if it's that the original actors don't want to come back.
It's my understanding that the original actors said no.
That's what my understanding is. So it kind of seems like this is the last resort for them. They're like, okay, we're just going to reboot the whole thing. We'll do, a 10-year show, and we'll start over from book one, and do however many episodes per year of Hogwarts time, and we'll get all the details that we didn't see in the movies.
This is still Max doing this.
Yes, this is through Warner
stupid.
Brothers.
They have bad people telling them what to create. I'd like to revisit my earlier statement. Whatever focus groups they're using are stupid and bad. This show is going to be stupid and bad. What if we made Harry Potter, but with a lower budget, with not the original people? Shut up. Just shut up and don't make your crap. The CG is going to look bad. The show is going to be bad. Don't make that. Don't make it. God, HBO, stop doing what you're doing. And you didn't get me with any of the other things you mentioned, but it is Game of Thrones right now that I would say keeps me in my seat for HBO. If it wasn't for Game of Thrones, I don't think I would be around. It's the best fantasy show that there is. If you want to watch the best one, that's it. It's got magic, it's got dragons, it's got violence, it's got treachery. It was better than Wheel of Time. It was better than the Lord of the Rings show. It's just where you got to go if you want to watch the best live-action fantasy show. And
that's
for that reason,
true.
that's my flag is there. For that reason, and I don't think they're going to cancel that series anytime soon. They've got the Jon Snow show coming. They've got House of the Dragon. I think they're going to keep expanding it. So that's going to keep me in HBO as long as there's Game of Thrones. I don't think I can cancel it. And then of course you've got like John Oliver, right? That's a funny show to catch some news. You've got How To with John Wilson, which is a great show to put on in the background if you're having a bad brain day. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on in HBO. But yeah, they're
a lot
big
of the comedies
moves.
that you've talked about over the years too. Things like the Righteous
Rehearsal.
Gemstones and The Rehearsal, and what's the pirate one? With
Black
Taika Waititi.
Black Sails.
Not Black Sails, but that one's good too.
No, it is
Our
Black Sails.
Flag Means Death.
Our Flag Means Death. That's right. Oh, Black Sails is that like gritty pirate show.
Yes, and I've seen that one too. It's
Is that
pretty
on?
good.
Is that also on HBO?
Uh,
I don't remember where that one is.
maybe Stars.
Or-
But
or
either
The
way,
other thing,
HBO's, and we've talked about it at length before, Drew, you and I, how Sunday night HBO slot is a big slot, and there's usually a big show there. And I wonder if Max will continue that. The Last of Us, of course, was a big project. I don't think that's going anywhere. Maybe I'm sour on these decisions I'm hearing, but I'm sort of talking myself into keeping HBO at the same time. How do you guys feel about it?
I don't know when we'll see this Harry Potter show, and talking about the details like you just were. I think about other things too. Like if you think about the Harry Potter movie franchise, they got almost every big name as far as British actors go to be in that show in some or to be in that film franchise in some capacity at some point along the line.
Yeah.
And we know, now look at Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson and Rupert Grint. They've all kind of gone their separate ways with their careers, and they've each approached their career very differently. But for the most part, they've been trying to distance themselves from a lot of the Potter things. At least Daniel Radcliffe in particular really has. And so now you're doing a show that anybody who signs onto that knows that they're getting into a 10-year plus commitment, which is a long time for an actor to commit themselves to, and something that they're fully going to be associated with moving forward. Like whoever the child is, a presumably 11, 12-year-old kid that gets cast as Harry Potter, it's going to be Harry Potter for the next decade, and that's a lot to ask of these young actors and things in this day and age, especially in the social media age. I mean, at least Daniel Radcliffe as a kid got into Harry Potter when there wasn't social media and things. Like, it's just such a different age. That being said, going back to your question, Gary, I don't want to skip over that of what do I think of it. I guess I think we'll get used to it eventually. Anytime these streamers change or do something, it always is weird. Like, Peacock is still a little weird to me. I still think that's an odd name considering you're NBC Universal and you could have been NBC Universal or something NBC Plus, or I don't know. The pluses seem to work just fine. Peacock was an interesting choice there. I'm sure we'll get used to Max. To me, it's just Max fades away into any sentence that it's in because we can use the word Max in so many other capacities. So it's just like, to me, the search engine optimization of that seems terrible.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's harder. It's
know?
Way harder to search now.
So I don't know. I'm sure that they've done their research. I like to try to give the benefit of the doubt, but it does seem like
they've done bad research and they're stupid, dumb idiots.
Yeah, Warner Brothers does not deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore. They have just been driving things in the ground for years now.
However, I have done research in the past 10 seconds or so and decided that I have a better name for their app than Max. What if you call it HBO app?
Everything should just be HBO app, Apple app.
Now you're talking. Now you're doing market research. Now you're thinking with your big old brain. That's easy to find in a search engine, and you know what to expect.
It makes more sense to drop the Max and add Plus. And if you have to change it, but honestly, like, why? What are you doing?
Even with Apple TV Plus, like, I've gotten used to that, but I found that odd when you had Apple already had a device called Apple TV, and then now you're having a streaming app called Apple TV Plus that originally I think you could only watch on an Apple TV or on your computer, and luckily now there's an Apple TV app on your Xbox and PlayStation and other places.
Vampire Bites in our chat says that the Apple app should be called App L.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Yep. Bonus points awarded.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can put app in the name of your app, that's what you need to be doing. Not making it just called Max. HBO, shame on you.
HBO is just...
it just doesn't make any sense.
Over the past year, I've been reading this huge book about the birth of HBO and what it did for cable and just how huge of a brand it is. And some of the best shows of all time are associated with HBO. Shows like Sopranos and The Wire and Game of Thrones and things like that. And now... you're just dropping that from the name. Like, your selling point seems like it was in the name and HBO being there, but
and it seems like it's just because they're adding Discovery, but they already acquired DC and all this other stuff. They keep adding to their brand or whatever. They have all these sections. They have their Studio Ghibli sections and their all this other stuff. Like, why?
I like the hubs or tabs.
I like the hubs,
in the app.
But why does Discovery warrant a change in the name completely? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then they had HBO Max originals. I guess those will just be changed to being Max originals, or maybe they'll be lumped in with HBO. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in a little over a month because it launches mid to late June, or mid to late May.
Discover HBO is a better name. For
Discover
their
HBO
app
is a better
than Max.
Yeah.
Or HBO Discover. It's either
or
way.
Or even Warner Brothers Discovery or Warner Brothers Plus or Warner Brothers. There's a lot of prestige in the studio name.
That's right. It's just
WB Plus or Warner Brothers Plus or Warner Brothers.
All I can do is
Discovery probably doesn't want to do that. But.
Because HBO means something, right? Mm-hmm. But Max doesn't mean anything. why would you change your name to something that doesn't represent your brand? I guess it's just so dumb to me. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's like if McDonald's changed their name to like Poor Burger and then changed all of their logos everywhere, and you're like, what is this place? Why would I go there? Like, this sounds horrible.
McDonald's, this name that everybody has, you know, name recognition for, they change it to just like Burger House.
Yeah, get rid of your name recognition, change your art. Yeah, like,
Burger drive-through.
It would be like Coca-Cola changing their name to Cola. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely strange choice. Good luck, I guess.
And soon enough, in another year, we'll probably be talking about streamers, and we'll all be like, Max was our favorite streamer of the year, and we'll be used to it by then. But as of now, in the lead up to, it is a little odd. But yeah, so that's Max. I also wanted to talk about, this kind of gets into our fresh picks of the week a little bit, because I went and saw Renfield this past week, which if you're not familiar, Renfield is the new movie in theaters where Nicolas Cage plays Dracula, but it is about Nicholas Hoult, who plays Renfield, who's Dracula's familiar, and he finally is fed up with being Dracula's familiar and doing Dracula's dirty work, and it's like a breakup movie. He's trying to get out. He's trying, or you know, like a mobster who's wanting to be done with the lifestyle. And I saw it in theaters, and I thought it was pretty funny. Like, I mean, it's not amazing by any means. Like, I know this is not the best way to praise the movie, but it's one of those classics where I hate saying this, but you could wait till it's on streaming and watch it then. Like, I don't necessarily know that you need to go out and see this movie in theaters, but it is good, campy fun. Like, there's a lot of over-the-top blood, you know, people or things that explode in gratuitous ways, and I wasn't expecting it to have that cheesy level of gore, and I enjoyed that. I also liked that it's set in New Orleans, and that's kind of fun throughout for some of the visuals. But it's... at the end of the day, it's kind of tanking at box office right now. Like, it's competing against Super Mario, and John Wick 4 is still in theaters, and a lot of these movies are outperforming. I think Renfield only made somewhere in the realm of $7 million this past weekend, which is not great, not very good at the box office, and it's gotten mediocre reviews, some critics praising it. Anyways, all that to say, I liked it for the most part for what it was. It's a shame people aren't going to see it, because I do like the idea of Universal taking some liberties with their Universal monsters and trying to figure out what to do with them, because they have so many iconic characters between Dracula and the Wolfman and the Invisible Man and Frankenstein's monster and things like that. And Renfield's interesting because just a couple years ago we got The Invisible Man, which I thought was a great take on that story. I don't know if either of you saw that film, but I thought it was very good.
I saw Hollow Man, or was it Hollow Man?
Oh yeah, the Kevin Bacon one.
No. I know what you're talking. I saw that one too. No, the one that was not that long ago with the girl from Handmaid's Tale. What was that?
That's The Invisible Man. That's the one.
Is that it?
A couple years ago, yeah.
Oh, that was
that's
good.
What I'm talking about. Yeah, it's really good. And it was kind of a cool take on The Invisible Man. I thought it was really well done. Renfield definitely plays up the camp, but it's kind of a fun way to tell a Dracula story and put it from Renfield's perspective and do something fun with it. And I hope that this doesn't derail them from doing any other Universal monsters, kind of fun approaches to the lore or mythology. I was curious if you were in the shoes of the studio and you were looking for a creative way to take, a traditional Frankenstein character or the Mummy or almost like what Guillermo del Toro did with The Shape of Water, and kind of taking that character, like Creature from the Black Lagoon, and kind of changing it into a romance type story. Any ideas for a fresh take, a fresh out the box, fresh out the podcast take on the Universal monsters?
Before we start giving away all of our award-winning gold star top tier movie ideas, let it be said by me that the movie monsters that you named are like the dollar store generic toy brand of monsters. Invisible Man, Frankenstein, Wolfman, these things are so dated. You know, they're not like 80s dated. They're not 60s dated. They're like fucking 1600s dated for like Wolfman, you know? These are like old fairy tales. You know, of course, Frankenstein's much more recent than that, but still, you're talking about like 100-year-old character. Yeah, it's got to be hard to breathe fresh life into these guys, right? They have a hard time doing it at Marvel, and they can create brand new heroes. So yeah, let it just. I just wanted to make a note that to me, these characters are like, I don't know, they're like bottom tier characters. You know, all you can do is go up from here, I think.
So does that mean is your take to abandon the monsters and just create new monsters? Try to make new stories or create new...
No, because that's what horror movies have been doing for like 20 years, right? Everybody wants to be the next movie monster. Everybody wants the next Freddy or the next Jason, but they were the next versions of Frankenstein and the Wolfman. So I'm not sure where we go from here, but I personally loved Freddy vs. Jason. We never saw any other movies like that at the time. I think there might be space for more verses, and you could make these characters a little more interesting. Yeah, you almost give them the Godzilla treatment, right? And then you see if you can work with other, work cross, and then you could do like Jason versus Frankenstein, because that's just money for everybody. So maybe there's a fun action horror campy thing in there. I like verses, you know. I don't think we squeezed all the juice out of versus horror movies yet.
Which kind of was the goal back in 2017 when they released The Mummy with Tom Cruise, and they were supposed to be building up the Dark Universe and having all these kind of reviving a lot of these characters and then having them all meet up, which failed spectacularly because The Mummy wasn't good. But at the end of the day, I'm with you, Gary. Like, the idea of crossing over and things isn't inherently bad. You just have to take care with it and not rush it. Like, take the time to build it up and then make it happen.
And protect your characters. It's like wrestling. You have to protect your characters. Every Frankenstein fan needs to see Frankenstein win, and whoever the else, Wolfman or Jason Voorhees, whatever you choose, they want to see their guy win. So you have to protect the legacy of both characters and really treat the movie with respect and make them terrifying and awesome and powerful. And I don't think it's that hard.
They haven't really done verses with this, but they have done like the Avengers team up, or at least they tried to, with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, because a lot of those characters were, you know, like the Bride of Dracula, the Invisible Man was literally in it, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. That was, I thought it was a valid, like a decent attempt, and honestly,
there's room for that.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't the worst movie. It didn't do well.
I'm surprised that property hasn't been resurrected, actually.
Me too.
I really like the comic books and the original graphic novels associated with it, and it's a shame that movie wasn't super well executed, but I feel like there's space for that story to be done well.
I feel like that might be a good path to revitalizing this, is to do the team up. Let's do the team up again, you know? But yeah, they have tried to revitalize these things, breathe new life in a lot of times. I mean, you remember Frankenstein. Man, it wasn't very good, but...
yeah, the Aaron Eckhart Frankenstein's monster movie.
They tried to modernize Frankenstein, and it just didn't go well. Renfield's a comedy, so maybe there's something to be said for that. Frankenstein does well in comedies.
Yeah, like the idea of exploring with different genres, too, with these monsters. Like, it doesn't mean it has to be horror. You could do, you know, campy comedy, or you can do, you know, figure out ways to do it.
I thought Werewolf by Night was awesome, and it was very Wolfman-y to me. It's like Marvel took Wolfman and was like, well, we'll just do it then. But if Warner Brothers had done it, they probably would have made it an hour and 45-minute piece of crap.
Well, I mean, Warner Bros. Owns the Wolfman, not werewolves, so...
Yeah, and Werewolf by Night's basically, you know, it's, to me, the way it was shot was very Wolfman-esque.
I'm not sure how far that goes, though, because, like, they obviously they don't own, like, all vampires, but do they own Dracula? Because, like, it feels weird that they would own Dracula, given how old that story is.
Marvel has Dracula, also.
Yeah, Marvel also has Dracula, that's a good point. And so I feel like those must just be public domain at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about Frankenstein, because it's not like it's, a brand new story. It's got to be public domain by now. So
Yeah.
they are maybe just trying to hold on to characters that are not theirs and can't make good movies,
Yeah,
so shouldn't try.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, they are trying to hold, like, it's not their property. Yeah, they're just trying to make that. So that is interesting. The other thing I feel is worth mentioning when we're talking about this, like, the monsters are cool and all, but it's also about, the other side of it. Like, Van Helsing was not bad with Hugh Jackman. It definitely was not the worst movie ever made. It was pretty good. It was not great. I would give it a 6, maybe a 7 on a good day, but not any higher than that. I don't know. I feel like they really need to flesh things out, because, like, what they did in The Mummy, right? They put Tom Cruise in it. He made it about him. That's weird in a Mummy movie, that it's not about the Mummy. You know what I mean? I don't even know who played the Mummy in that movie. I know that it was a woman, but I don't know who. I didn't see it. It didn't appeal to me,
I wouldn't cast Tom Cruise in anything ever again if I were a casting director. And especially not be like, this is the guy to carry our Mummy franchise. That would not have been my guy. You need someone who's, like, really personable. Someone who can lead a team, right? Someone who can go around and do all the media tours and shake hands and say hello and be nice. Tom Cruise is a weird guy.
Yeah, why would you pick someone
who's... A little movie called Top Gun Maverick that came out last year would like to argue with you about.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's also a sequel to the thing he did already.
Yeah.
Right? It's not trying to build a franchise off of
him.
If
you're trying to build an ongoing franchise with continuing characters, why would you pick one of the most notoriously difficult people to work with, as your, like, main dude? As Brick 1. You know what I mean? Not Brick 5, Brick 1. You're like, Tom Cruise, he can hold the team together. Everyone gets along with Tom Cruise.
Funny that you say that. In hindsight, look back at exactly what Marvel did, which was find someone that was notoriously hard to work with and made them the center brick.
Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah, exactly.
I have it on good authority that Tom Cruise actually listens to this podcast, and he's probably going to be contacting you, Jahan. I think he's going to have words.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, Tom Cruise, if you're actually listening, I challenge you to a celebrity fight. We shall do MMA. I saw that apparently they're doing Creators Clash, where YouTube creators are, like, doing MMA fights. Matt Mercer's wife did one. She did an MMA fight against somebody, so I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I think it was MMA, or was it boxing? I think it was traditional boxing.
I'm so happy that they waited for me to be, like, super out of shape for that to come up. That's real fun for me.
Well, I guess the last thing, who's your favorite Universal Classic monster? Luckily, zombies are not included here, so we don't know Jahan's answer already.
Can you guess what mine is?
I'm gonna guess maybe the werewolf or the Wolfman.
Okay,
is that your favorite?
What do you think, Gary?
I think you're a Dracula guy.
Okay. Well, both those are probably my top two, but yeah, Wolfman takes it. I love werewolves. I also love vampires, so it is a tough one, but I would have to say the Wolfman. The Wolfman's the shit. Classic Dracula, though, there's something to be said about that. When it's done right, it's done well. It's. What about you guys?
I think Frankenstein's monster is stupid. I think that's a stupid villain. It's a dumb bad guy.
He's not the bad guy.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I don't think that's a compelling story, because you can only tell the same story. He gets created, he goes out, he accidentally messes stuff up trying to make the world better, and you have to ship your monster away or kill your monster or get rid of your monster, and it's sad. So I don't think that's
too many feelings.
I don't know. I just don't think that's a story you need to keep telling. It's like when you tell the Spider-Man origin story.
It is a lot like that, because it really does only go one way. We know the origin story.
We all know the freaking story, man. So,
yeah, like Dracula is way more mysterious. And,
you can make a new story with Dracula. You can make a new story with Wolfman. You can make a new story with the Invisible Man or the Creature of the Black Lagoon. But I think Frankenstein's monster is really stuck in his story, or else he's just a flesh golem. And if he's just a flesh golem, I think that's awesome. But I've never seen that story. So for that reason, I will not pick Frankenstein's monster.
On the note of golems, I really enjoy the the story of the Jewish golem that is supposed to protect the Jewish people. That's a very interesting story. Very much like Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's probably has its roots in Frankenstein, or Frankenstein has its roots in the Jewish golem, rather.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But I will go with Dracula for myself as well, just because you can tell compelling stories, creature of darkness, blood, knives, subterfuge, yada yada. I like the old classic vampires things where they can't cross running water and they can't come in unless they're invited. I think there's a lot of fun rules with vampires, crosses and garlic and blah blah blah.
Counting
you don't have
rice.
that.
I like the counting rice.
The other monsters don't have that, and I think that makes Dracula fun.
There's a good gag in Renfield that actually made me chuckle, where Renfield goes back to his apartment that he has secured during the course of the events of the movie, and Dracula is there waiting for him, and he's confused as to how Dracula got in, and then he realizes that when he was furnishing his new apartment, he put a mat outside that says "Welcome in," and he realizes the error of his ways, and it made me chuckle.
That is funny.
Rookie mistake.
What
about you,
I'm probably gonna go with. I hate to copy somebody's answer, but I think I'm also a Wolfman fan. Although I do like all of them physically, I really like the design of Creature from the Black Lagoon, but I think Wolfman. And to expand on what Gary is saying with Frankenstein, I do feel like I agree about Frankenstein being stuck in the story, and I don't know where to take that story, but I feel like Frankenstein's monster has a lot of potential that if somebody figures out what to do with that story, or a neat way to tell that story, there's a lot of potential there for it to surprise people, if that makes sense, in a positive
Mummy,
way.
Frankenstein, buddy cop, comedy movie.
I'm here for it.
What are we thinking?
Frank and Mummy.
I mean, a Frankenstein concept. It's like you were saying, Gary. Even look at a show like The Addams Family, right? And Lurch, who's kind of the Frankenstein adjacent character, is essentially just like the quiet butler. Like, there's no personality. There's nothing that, he's just permanently a side character there.
I tell you, my favorite Frankenstein story is Of Mice and Men. I think Of Mice and Men is a really good Frankenstein tale, and maybe you could pin a script that's a combination of those two and make it a little exciting.
I like it. Any last thoughts on the Universal monsters?
I mean, I can talk about it forever, but yeah. There's a board game if you want to play the board game Horrified.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I played that with Gary. It was really fun. It's a cooperative game in which you try to defeat minimum 2 of the monsters at a time, but you can go against multiples. It's pretty fun.
That sounds like it would be
available at Target or wherever board games are sold.
So that's Renfield and the Universal monsters. Renfield.
Oh, before you get too far from Renfield, did you ever watch What We Do in the Shadows? Either the movie or the show?
I have not watched the show.
Oh boy.
Okay. I'm getting big time What We Do in the Shadow vibes. It's like it's a current set vampire story. The familiar is one of the main characters. The vampires have powers, but they use them to kind of be stupid assholes instead of actually be like dark lords. So it just kind of seems like a cheeky comedy, and it seems, close enough that I could put them in a pile together. It's not like there's a lot of vampire cheeky comedies out there.
I think that's a somewhat fair to loop them in. Renfield's probably not as heavy on the comedy, but there are some good gags in it. And gore gags work for me. Like, I hate to say it, even if it's bad CGI gore, like, it just works on me. It'll make me laugh or gasp or have a reaction.
Does that mean you like Evil Dead?
Oh yeah. And I'm really looking forward to Evil Dead Rise.
Me too.
Which we're actually recording this on a Monday night, and it's because our friend of the show, Sean, is going to see Evil Dead Rise tomorrow night, and so in his place, I'm going to a screening of Beau is Afraid, which I'm really excited to see, which is why we're recording a day early. But hopefully next week we'll have plenty of Evil Dead Rise and Beau is Afraid stuff to talk about, because I'm going to try and see Evil Dead Rise this weekend also.
Me too.
It looks spooky. It looks like it's gonna be scary.
It looks pretty terrifying. I'm excited. But yeah, so I guess it's a good time for horror right here in the spring.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, I thought that was a segue, and I think you were just referring to Evil Dead coming out.
Yeah.
I thought you had something horror-worthy you were going to talk about.
He
I
does,
do.
and I thought he was going to segue too. Oh, it was such a good tee-off.
I'm not good at segues.
I thought you had it. I thought you were going to dunk on it. That's all right. Let's fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. But yeah, springtime. Speaking
Why
of
don't we
Ghostwire
spring into
Tokyo.
savings? Oh yeah.
Well, we can spring is fresh, brings lots of fresh flowers, which means it's time to get to our fresh picks of the week and
There you
all
go.
the things that we have been
I
watching,
did
enjoying, reading, playing, whatever it may be. I already talked about Renfield. I had one other movie I can talk about really quick, and this is a rewatch, and it's just that I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 comes out in just a few weeks. It's going to be here before we know it. And I'd like to rewatch the first and the second one before then. So the first one, I can cross it off the list. And I'll say this. Anytime that I think that I'm having superhero fatigue or Marvel fatigue and I complain about the new movies, I tell you what, you go back and watch one like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's still good. It still holds up. Like, no, maybe it's just the quality of the movies these days and not fatigue, because I can watch the old ones and still enjoy them a lot.
All of the Marvel movies were going somewhere, and now they just don't feel like they are. And it's like, okay.
I just watched
They feel like
Suicide
DC.
Squad this past weekend also, and Suicide Squad held up. I liked it still on rewatching it.
That's
So,
one that
I
I
think
need
you're
to
right.
rewatch too. Oh yeah,
I think
so we're
you're right.
both
It's
watching
not
James Gunn movies.
Yep, and I don't think it's superhero fatigue. After watching Suicide Squad, though, I am wondering if he can carry a whole universe, but it was actually more fun than I remembered. It was pretty good. It's a pretty good little flick.
Yeah, I kind of feel like there's been a cynical part of me that's been souring on the MCU as a whole with some of the recent offerings, but then I go back and watch something like Guardians, and it's still a banger. I think it's still really fun. Rocket is amazing, Groot is amazing, and it's just funny looking back on it if you kind of try to take yourself back in a time portal back to when it came out. And when Batista was cast as Drax, it just seemed like, we cast the big wrestler, meaty muscle man to be the meaty muscle character, and whatever. And then you walk away from that movie, and he's definitely a highlight and holds up when you watch it almost 10 years later. So Guardians of the Galaxy still good. Hopefully
I might have to watch it, right now.
yeah, I'll have rewatched Volume 2 by the next time we record and can talk about that one. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, good. How about you, Gary? Anything else you've been any movies, I guess?
Yeah, movies.
Yeah, on Peacock, Cocaine Bear's on Peacock.
What?
So I didn't have to wait long to watch that one. And that was one I was almost going to get out of my house and go see. And let me tell you, I'm glad that I didn't. Even though it was exactly what I wanted it to be, it wasn't very good. It wasn't as funny as it should have been. There weren't enough, bits. I don't know, they tried to treat it more like it was definitely tried to be a cult classic. That was the intention from the get-go. And maybe it will be a cult classic for, it's Elizabeth Banks, right? That's her first directorial. So I think it will be.
Not her directorial debut, but she did direct it.
So I think fans of Elizabeth Banks, it's going to be a cult classic for them. And they're always going to be like, look how fun this is. And, she can get outside the box and have a blast and do this. And it is kind of fun, but I would say it's not certified fresh out the box. I wouldn't rush out to have gone to see it in theaters. I'm kind of glad that I didn't. I'd give it a 3 out of 10 just because it's so forgettable and the performances are so meh. And the CG bear does not look good at all. You could watch it and you might have fun while you're watching it, but a couple days later it'll set in how not good what you just watched was, or how forgettable it was. So I give Cocaine Bear a thumbs down. And that's
she's directed 3 movies. She directed Pitch Perfect 2, and then directed the 2019 Charlie's Angels movie, which I have not seen, but I remember hearing was not good. And then now Cocaine Bear. So, not the best start to her directorial debut, or I should say, starting her career as a director. But yeah, I'm with you, Gary. Like Cocaine Bear, I think I tried to convince myself that I liked it when I saw it back in theaters a few months ago, and I think I spoke positively on it on the show. But it's one of those where, as I've gotten further removed from it, there's one part in it that sticks out to me as being good, which is the ambulance chase scene in the middle of the movie, which had one good gory moment that stuck out to me that was really good. And made me laugh. But I think that's the highlight of the movie, is that the rest of the plot and how they try to make things work and all the different characters, like barely any of it works. There's one scene where, the scene where the cop is on the roof and the bear circling, they're out there, like they're just talking for way too long.
Yep.
It's like they're trying to stretch to even get to a 90-minute runtime. It's a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I agree. None of the characters were compelling. I didn't care if they all got killed by the bear. I didn't care what any of their story was. In fact, it probably would have been better as a slasher film if the bear just killed everyone. More current, it's all like guitar and rock with lyrics that kicks off like every time there's a fight or a horse chase. And every single time it pulls me out of the show. And I'm like, who picked this music? This is horrible. But other than that, it's a Western. If you're looking for a kind of a bad Western TV show to watch, check out Walker Independence. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 right now because I don't think it's going to get any better, and I would be surprised if it got any worse. Certified meh out the box.
Have you ever watched any Yellowstone? Just as far as Western TV shows go?
I've seen a lot of Yellowstone.
I watched like 3 episodes of Yellowstone, and it's the modern setting, right?
Yeah, it's the Kevin Costner show, and it's interesting actually to bring it up because I don't think any of us watch that show regularly. John, you mentioned you've seen some episodes,
seen a lot of it.
It's one of those shows that's one of the more popular shows on cable, and yet none of us watch it or really ever have talked about it on the show. My wife watches it.
It's for our dads. It's our dad's show.
Yeah, I would. If it was a more traditional Western, I would probably watch it. The fact that it's a modern Western is a pretty big turnoff to me because I hate people like that.
Yeah. So you like period piece Westerns, like
yes,
cool Wild West.
I kind of have a soft spot for period piece Westerns, but I don't like spaghetti Westerns as much. The production quality's crappy and the acting's not good, and it was a horrible time to be alive in Hollywood. So, I like basically, I think, anything from like Cowboy or from Tombstone. Let's go with anything from Tombstone or later. I think I like, and of course, Cowboys versus Aliens is of note there. Daniel Craig Western is freaking awesome.
Man, that's a movie that I forgot existed, which is crazy because it's directed by Jon Favreau, if I remember correctly. Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford. Man, yeah, I remember that one.
Honestly, that movie was better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, it was better than it had any right to be.
It was decent, and it could have been really good. It was close.
310 to Yuma.
That's the one I was about to say. 310 to Yuma slaps.
Yeah, I could get with period piece Westerns, but I got to tell you, it's disconcerting whenever like 50s pop rock comes on during the fight scenes. That is not at all. If it's a harmonica and a guitar, I'm in. But as soon as it's electric guitars with vocals, I'm like, what in the hell is going on here?
The lyrics you're talking about, get hopping in the Camaro, going down the highway. It's like, what's happening?
But the show's good. It's got all the Western tropes. It's got everything you want. So for that reason, it's watchable. There's the bad guy's a sheriff, and he's in cahoots with the railroad, and he wants to take over the town with the banks. All my favorite bad guys. I hate big business, and I hate banks. So anytime that's who the bad guy is, I'm in. How about you fellers? You been watching anything noteworthy?
I have been watching a show. However, it is anime.
Oh no!
I recently gained access to Crunchyroll. That's the way I shall choose to say it. But yeah, so I finally got Crunchyroll. I got Hulu initially for anime because Hulu has an amazing anime selection, blah blah blah. But this particular anime that I heard good things about, only available on Crunchyroll, Goblin Slayer. It's something that's becoming more and more common in animes where they are like fantasy realm, like kind of in a video game. Although this one, they're not actually in a video game. It's just the rules are very reminiscent of an RPG, I guess. But yeah, it's all about this guy. He's the Goblin Slayer. He kills goblins. It's a pretty cool anime, pretty violent.
Name.
Yeah, it's a very apt name. They don't try to pretend that they're something they're not. It's very violent, very gory. There is some trigger warning stuff for like, SA and that kind of thing, and that kind of got to me a little bit. I was like, man, like I really wish that they hadn't put some of that stuff in there, but like the goblins are just kind of that way, and it doesn't make it okay. It's just that's what's happening. And but hey, this guy hates goblins. He's killing the goblins. So I mean, on from like when you step back and look at it, it is kind of a messed up anime, but it's also kind of cool fantasy. There's some cool magic going on in there. Eventually, they form a kind of a traditional Dungeons and Dragons party with like a dragonborn, a dwarf, an elf, and 2 humans. And like the Dragonborn, like he does his like druidic magic with like he's like, I invoke my ancestor, the Velociraptor, and like I don't know, it's kind of cool in that respect. Cool fight scenes.
Is this one of those shows that has been gaining popularity and steam in the anime community? Like, is this going to cross over to mainstream, similar to something like Demon Slayer or My Hero Academia or things?
I don't think it would ever get to that level, because I forget the terminology, but all of those are very popular because their manga are mainstream. I forget what they call that specific manga. Shippuden, something like that. It's the main section of animes, the most popular animes. Those spawn shonens. Yeah, they're called Shonen Jump animes, and like those are like the most popular ones, and those hit mainstream. But this one's probably going to stay a little bit on the fringes, even though in the community, people like it. So if you like anime, check it out. Trigger warning, though, for gratuitous sexual violence. And
would you say it's similar to Overlord at all? It sounds a little... Okay.
Similar to Overlord. I did get some strong Overlord vibes from this. It's just like in Overlord, they overdo the fan service. I'm not a big... I'm fine with some, because, like, I don't know, boobs are cool and all, but, like, chill out. You know what I mean? I'm an adult. I don't need you to be it doesn't need to be all the time. This one, it's much... Honestly, the fan service in Overlord's much worse, but,
okay.
This one... I like it. So far, I like it. There's a few seasons of it, so if you're looking for a new fantasy anime, because I'm very picky when it comes to that specific kind of anime, check it out. Give it a look.
I'll have to see if Xbox Gold or Game Pass has one of those free Crunchyroll offers. A lot of times they do a free month or two, so I'll check it out, because I'd like to watch that. That sounds neat.
It is, yeah, I did think about you when I was watching it, because you like Overlord so much, and so do I.
Yeah, and for anybody listening, I still recommend Overlord. If you can find Overlord to watch and stream, it's awesome. It's that video game setting, but the main character is the boss bad guy instead of being like a low-level hero. So that's pretty gangster. Yeah, it's a really interesting twist on things. Drew, you mentioned you were asking anime questions. Do you anime at all? You have any interest in anime?
Interest, yes. This is what I've always said. I've probably said this before on the show, but I feel like with my interests, the anime should be something that I'm into. And every time that I think I want to get into it or try, I'll start a show and I can't get into it. I've watched, the super mainstream like Dragon Ball Z, a lot of the Dragon Ball series, and when I was young, I liked Pokemon, but I feel like Pokemon is so mainstream that you could barely consider it like a true anime, even though it is.
Kinda.
But there's been a lot of the ones that have been mainstream that I've considered. Like I have friends that really enjoy One Piece, but that show has like a million episodes.
It has over
I'm
1,000, and it's still going.
Yeah, I'm never gonna get into that. But shows like My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, things that are popular, I'm like, maybe one day I could just jump into it, but then I just have so many other things I want to watch, and I feel like I'd have to devote so much time to it.
See, My Hero, I think you would like because you like superheroes, and the creator of My Hero is a big fan of Marvel, and it does show. There are some problematic things in that anime as well, but hey, there's a lot of problems with a lot of anime. Demon Slayer is really good. I like Demon Slayer. I could recommend a lot of animes to you, but you don't want to commit necessarily to like 10 seasons, right? So back in the day when I was watching like anime when I was younger, my favorite ones were the limited series. They're like 24 episodes. You're in and out, and they have a lot of those like Hellsing, Escryed, Witch Hunter Robin, Gantz. Like those ones, you're in, you're out, and it's done. And it's a complete arc. They went in with the expectation to do 24 or 36 episodes, and that's it. And then it's I don't know. That's what really pulled me in deep in anime. And then I started enjoying things like Naruto. Naruto is hard for me to get into, but now that I've been in anime for a while, I actually really like Naruto. I finished all of it, and I thought it was even better than Dragon Ball Z, which people from our generation often don't think that way. It's the younger generation that prefers Naruto.
I think also, a lot of these series in their entirety are found on streaming services, like you said, like on Crunchyroll or what's the other one? The other big one, Funimation.
Funimation, yeah. There was one called like Raven something a while ago, but you're not wrong.
If they were on some of the more mainstream streamers that I already have, I think the chances of me digging into one would be more.
My Hero
some of them
Academia is on Hulu.
It is on
right, and that's why I've considered watching, especially when you used to be talking about it regularly, Gary, because I know you were watching through it.
Yes, I've seen it, almost all of it. I think there's a fifth season now that I was waiting for it to get dubbed. And it's probably dubbed now. I could probably go back on Hulu and finish that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the only reason I have Hulu in the first place is because of anime. So, Hulu, I started paying for it because they actually have, I would say, of all the mainstream streaming services that aren't for anime, Hulu probably has the best anime selection. Okay. And when I say that, I mean, they have a pretty good one. They have, like, Mob Psycho. They have... Man, they have that fucked up Magica one. I forget what that one's called. But yeah, they have like Full Metal Alchemist and stuff, which are all good ones. So, I don't know. Well, one of these days I'll get you into it.
Fair enough. I also have a show that I was watching, jumping back to the HBO conversation. I actually spent my Sunday evening this week watching Succession. Once again, the 4th episode of Succession came on. It was very good. But following Succession was the 2-episode premiere of Barry, the Bill Hader series on HBO that I really like, that has become kind of his passion project and baby, as he's a director and writer and, has really taken the reins of that show. And the first 2 episodes were really good for those that have been keeping up with Barry. It has somewhat derailed from what it once was purposefully. The first couple seasons are kind of I say basic premise, but it is a funny premise. He is an assassin who decides he wants to get out of that lifestyle one day when he follows a target to an acting class and decides he wants to abandon his life of being an assassin to pursue acting in LA. And I love that basic premise. And it sticks to that premise a lot through the first 2 seasons. He's still getting brought into jobs and trying to get out of the assassin work, but it's, the constant one more job kind of mentality. And, of course, one job leads to another or leads to bad results, or something bad to happen. And it plays up the comedy more. Now in season 3, kind of really took the show in a different direction, and season 4 is continuing that trend, and this is the final season, so they're all wrapping up towards an end. But the show has become such an artistic endeavor for Bill Hader. It's really fascinating. It's so well shot and well executed. And the acting and the performances are really great. And it is not just a standard comedy of like what it once was a few years ago. The 2-episode premiere I thought was a really great start to the season. And so I'm looking forward to more. I don't want to spoil too much, but everybody involved, Hader and Stephen Root and Henry Winkler. Oh my goodness, they're all great in it. So yeah, so that's Barry season 4.
I've seen some Barry, and I think it's funny, and I think once it's done, I'll probably watch all of it and be like, oh man, why did they stop this show? But I'm not currently watching it.
Pretty breezy. It's 30-minute episodes. I think each season's only 8 episodes, so you can fly through it when it's all done.
Yeah, and I love Bill Hader, so I'm in. You had me at Bill Hader. You pretty much always do.
Yeah, Bill Hader's great. I love him so much.
That's it. Barry season 4.
Well, that's
the
it
other
for
thing on my
shows.
list is a video game.
Let's transition over to video games.
Sweet, we all have a game to talk about.
We all have a game to talk about.
Well, I'll go. Since I was just talking about Barry, I'll talk about this. I finished my first playthrough of the campaign for Resident Evil 4 Remake. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was nice having a beefy Resident Evil campaign. I was messaging with you guys earlier this week, but when I played the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, you can beat those campaigns taking your time in about 6 to 8 hours probably, and then you can speed run them pretty easily. Resident Evil 4 is a pretty beefy game. It's like it took me about 20 hours to beat it first time through, and I know you can speed run it in under 5 hours, with ease and with the right weapons and everything. But yeah, Resident Evil, it's great. These games are meant to be replayed and to kind of find the secrets and keep upgrading. And what I said last time, this still holds true, is that even your most basic enemies continue to remain a threat through the game, which I think is what makes it so appealing, is like every single room you have to approach with caution. And I would say also it's the type of game that with the resource management and everything, just beating the game, even on the regular difficulty, you feel like it takes skill to do so. And I think that's one of the rewarding things about playing these modern Resident Evil games and the remakes and such. But yeah, just great game. Really enjoyed my time with it. I'm sad that I didn't play the original 15 plus years ago when it came out, so I couldn't have had this experience sooner, but I'm happy that my first experience with it got to be the remake, because it was really, really well done, and I am thinking about how I'm going to approach my New Game Plus playthrough and playing it over again. So, yeah, Resident Evil 4 Remake, very good.
Yeah, I played it. I played it on the GameCube a long time ago at a friend's house. But then when I actually played it all the way through, I played the remaster. Resident Evil 4 is one of the best in the franchise. It's a fantastic game. So yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, and Leon Kennedy is probably one of my favorite of the protagonists in the different games. Each Resident Evil typically has a couple different protagonists you play as, and between Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, and I think Leon was introduced in 2 as one of the protagonists, but I don't know. I like Leon. He's pretty generic, good guy, good-looking hero guy, but I don't know. I like Leon.
There's nothing wrong with Leon.
My game is also not brand new, and so I'll go next. Jahan's game being the newest of the bunch.
Yeah, I did it.
Loop Hero. Jahan talked about this a few months ago after he played Vampire Survivors. I think he played Loop Hero.
No, before.
Oh, before. So I'm doing the exact opposite, right? So then I played Vampire Survivors, and now I'm playing Loop Hero. So I'm just mirroring what Jahan is doing and giving you my feedback. Loop Hero. Interesting game for sure. Nothing like it. It feels like you're playing a board game by yourself without having to clean up 2,000 cards. The game starts and your guy runs around a little trail and he runs back to the base. It's like a circle-ish. It's always this loop. Your guy runs the loop. He comes back home. As you kill the slimes that are on the board, you get your cards. So it's a deck building game on top of that. Your cards let you put down different locations that spawn stronger monsters, or can heal you, or can make you attack faster. It's basically you're controlling your own board game, but you control the tiles that you land on and where they go. So it's a mix of putting out enough bad guys that you can farm and not putting out so many that you die, getting back around the board, getting back to your camp, healing up, and doing it all over. The more whooping butt you do, the more you upgrade your gear, the better gear you have, the more butt whooping you do, and on it goes. It's a roguelike, so you're meant to die, you're meant to go back and upgrade your base and upgrade your camp and do all these cool things that still kind of feel like a one-man board game. It's real easy to play and real hard to put down. I'm not sure what's so addicting about Loop Hero, but they've got it. They've got a great mix of gameplay and deck building and upgrading. It's just a very good balance all around. I especially don't like games that are like old, kind of retro aesthetic. I didn't like them, and then for whatever reason, Vampire Survivor was so fun that I was ready for Loop Hero. And Loop Hero is also, really low graphics, low res, kind of an 80s throwback thing. So if you're into that, it's a good thing. And if you're not into that, well, at least it means your download speed is fast. So I say that Loop Hero is a huge win. I'd say it's certified fresh out the box.
I agree.
I've only put about 4 or 5 hours into it, and I can tell it's the kind of game that you need to put about 30 hours into it before you start really feeling your upgrades. So I'm looking forward to just dumping hours and hours of my life into Loop Hero for no reason. But I think it's great. Enjoyed everything I touched so far.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Loop Hero. It does have a lot similar with Vampire Survivor. It's Vampire Survivor, the board game, essentially, because it is an auto battler. You are meant to die. You can unlock new characters. I like the story. You're a hero, but you failed to save the world, and the big bad destroyed the universe, and you only exist as fragmented memories. I think it's a really cool story. I think it's a really fun game. Definitely certified fresh. And now, for all of you that didn't play it when I said it, it's free on Game Pass. So, you have no excuses. Go check it out. And speaking of free on Game Pass, Ghostwire Tokyo. This is a AAA title. This is a big boy game. This is free on Game Pass right now, so of course I had to try it. And boy, oh boy, am I glad I did, because I really like this game. When it started off,
I feel like it reviewed well when it came out. It's one of those games that was the holdover from the Xbox when Microsoft purchased Bethesda, because it was a PlayStation exclusive for its first year. And which that was a deal negotiated before the purchase, and so now finally Xbox gamers are getting it a year later straight to Game Pass. It's exciting.
It's very exciting. If you haven't heard of this, it takes place in Japan. Obviously, Ghostwire Tokyo. It is in Japanese. I didn't even look to see if you can change the settings. It is subtitled, and I'm just playing with the subtitles.
It's the same.
But, so in the very beginning, stuff happens. You wind up sharing a body with a ghost, and that ghost helps you survive an event that takes over the city, killing, hundreds of thousands of people. And through this, it's a first-person shooter, RPG, horror game, in where you are going around the city, trying to clear this, evil mist that killed everybody, while saving their souls, doing boss battles, and just some really challenging combat. In the very beginning, I wasn't sure about the game, because I'm like, okay, this is cool, but it's very linear, blah, blah, blah. But there's a certain point, where once you get to the certain point, training wheels come off, it becomes an open world game. And you can, jump up buildings and glide around the city. You get some real mobility, and it's a very fun time. Drew, you're gonna love how many collectibles there are. There's 12 different kinds of collectibles, and all of them do different things. They have fetch quests that you can do for yokai spirits, which will net you money. They have lots of kooky characters too. I remember one time I had to chase an umbrella that became a yokai spirit. because anything old and ancient in in Japanese mythology can become a spirit. So it's very cool. There's a very large variety to the quests and the missions that you're doing. I didn't find myself doing the same thing over and over again. Even in the clear the house missions that I was doing, they were all different. They had different stories. Sometimes you're kind of solving a murder while you're doing it. Very, very fun. The story is super interesting. The guy who's possessing you, spirit-wise, he was fighting ghosts before, back when he was a living person, and you start to uncover his story a bit. I had nothing but good things to say about this game. You can play all different kinds of ways. I have fire, water, and air magic now. I have a bow and arrow. You can do all kinds of stuff. And I just had one of the most challenging fights last night in this game. I was in an elevator, got to the top of the building, nothing but spirits everywhere. They came for me hard. I almost died. It was crazy. If you have Game Pass, you need to try this game at the very least. It is scary to a point. It's very actiony, and it's hard to make full action games like that be truly terrifying. It's not non-stop horror, but it does have its moments that are pretty jarring.
Yeah, I was on edge for sure. There was a couple of times when Annie would say something, and I'd be like, "Oh crap!" She would scare the crap out of me just from being in the next room. Yeah, I also thought it was awesome. Same thing, the wind, the fire, the water, and the bow. And it sort of reminds me, in a way, of Far Cry, but not Far Cry 6 because it was third person and very colorful and very bright. More like the Far Cry 5 or Far Cry 4, where you can die pretty easily. It's pretty lethal. You can traverse buildings and traverse around, and you're trying to find these gates so that you can open the fog of war on the map and travel even further. So it's almost got an Assassin's Creed type of aesthetic, or type of look at the Eagle Eye Hawk Tower type of situation. But yeah, for sure, it's more shootery than Assassin's Creed or maybe even Far Cry. It's you can run out of ammo, and all of the enemies are very lethal. If you take your eye off of a ghost for a second, it gets its health back and will continue to kick your ass. So you have to get them when they're injured, and so it makes the combats pretty compelling, where you're fighting, and you have to stop and all right, I gotta suck up these two ghosts real quick because I don't want them to come back, and then you go back to fighting. So it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it's challenging and fun. I got nothing but good things to say about Ghostwire Tokyo as well. I thought the bad guy was pretty compelling. The guy with the Kabuki mask and his little buddies, they're nice and scary.
His little group of people, they're scary, man.
I like those little goons. So I'm in, man. They had me, like Jahan said, maybe the first 40 minutes or so you seem like you're on rails, but once you get out and start playing the game, it's a good time.
Yeah, at first I was like, this game's okay. And then once the rails were gone, I was like, oh man, this is really good. This is out of control.
Yeah,
so certified
I'll say that's
fresh.
Same.
From both of us. So yeah, we both certified fresh. Check it out free on Game Pass right now. Nothing's stopping you. But I do believe that concludes our fresh picks for this week. What a discussion. We gotta talk about. I'm happy anytime I get to talk about anime and movie monsters. So thanks. I was
amazed too because I'm Renfield was the big movie release this week. Not the there's more exciting movies coming out here soon, and we still managed to make a feast out of it, and I think that's what podcasting is all about.
Hell yeah, man! I had this was a good episode for me. I enjoyed this a lot. I got to talk about a lot of my interests and made me happy.
I was just surprised Drew was here, but other than that, I had a pretty good time.
You tried to get her away from me, but you just can't do it.
Well, here's the hope, and Drew comes back next week. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. This has been Fresh Out the Podcast, episode 83, and I've been Johananon at RockFact on Twitter. Hit me up with your favorite anime.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box. That's where Jahan and I play games using our imagination. We do silly voices, we make people have a good time and make people have a sad time, and sometimes you get nightmares from the way people's flesh is peeled off of their bones. But it's a good time, and you should check it out. Check out Fresh Out the Box every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Until 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Until then, tell all your friends to like us, to review us, to kiss their phone when our podcast comes on.
And I am Drew Munhausen, at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. And thank you so much for listening to episode 83 of Fresh Out the Podcast. Hopefully we'll be back next week when Evil Dead has risen in Evil Dead Rise.
Hell yeah, everybody, stay fresh.